So it's with great pleasure that I welcome Quint Studer to our show today. Hello, everyone. I'm Janet Pilcher, host of Accelerate Your Performance. And Quint, it is so great to have you on today to talk about our new book, The Extraordinary Gift, Our Teachers. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Janet. You know, I love you, and I've loved you from the first. I loved you from hello. Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, and we've had, I've had a chance in the book to really talk a little bit about our story. There's a lot more to tell, but just the impact that you've had on my life has been tremendous. So just being able to share this book with you and give a gift to our teachers who are extremely important to all of us is very special, Quint. So thank you for that opportunity as well.
You're more than welcome.
So let's start. We've been talking about this book for a while, and you wrote the book, The Calling, that connected to healthcare. And you had an idea about writing a book aligned to the type of book that you did in authoring The Calling. And so you and I started talking about that, and we moved forward and took action on it. So talk about why this book, Quint, and why right now?
Well, I get chills talking about it. When I wrote the book, The Calling, it was about people in healthcare, got into healthcare because it's a calling. And yeah, I find that's not just teachers, or that's not just healthcare, that's people in helping professions. So you talk to paramedics, they were Halloween paramedics. You talk to, teachers, they had little brother and sister sitting in the floor giving them lessons and things like that. So The Calling was written about that we answer our DNA, and it was about how do we replenish ourselves. But this book's different. The Calling's more also, I think, more tactical. I think this book is less tactical and more emotional and appreciative. And because there is a difference. So before I'll talk about other professions, if you don't mind, Jan. If I go on too long, let me know.
No, please do.
I'm a paramedic. I go and help somebody get to the hospital. When I get into the hospital, the family thanks me for taking their family. I go to the ER. So in healthcare, extraordinary people in healthcare, but you pretty much get a thank you right away. As you and I were talking, I've had a bad back. And, when the pain medicine doc or the chiropractor doc, I am just appreciating the heck out of them, and they know it. So in many helping professions, even restaurants, thank you. I own a minor league baseball team. People say to the usher, thank you. To the foot, everybody gets an immediate thank you, except teachers don't get immediate thank yous. And it just hit me that teachers are so phenomenal human beings, but they're in a profession where their gratitude either comes totally internally, knowing what they're doing is noble, or they're not going to get it externally. I mean, my belief is if the principal knocks on a teacher's door and says a parent called them, their first thought isn't, oh, is this positive? It's, what happened? It's that type. If you're a principal and some parent wants to talk to you, it's not, well, the teacher's so great. So the whole idea of the book was to write a book that teachers understand, even though they're not hearing it right away, they're making such a huge impact and appreciate it. And it's also actually to encourage other people to appreciate the teachers that they have or do have. So, it takes 3 compliments to 1 criticism, and teaching's a lonely job.
Yes.
I mean, teaching is a lonely job. And then again, comparing it to other professions.
Yes.
Other professions, you're almost seeing other people do their job. We're in a restaurant, whether you're in an activity. If you're in healthcare, you're in the OR, you got 8 other people working with you. But in teaching, it's a solo job.
It is.
And it's a solo job working with people that aren't your age
Yeah.
or aren't like you. So I think it's a lonely job. And I more and more realized that when I left teaching and got into other jobs, how lonely being a teacher can be.
Yeah. And it's, as you're talking, it's interesting to think about teaching because it's a lonely job. And it's also, when I think back, Quint, over my life of jobs, I'll never forget teaching because of the the emotions that attach to that job. I mean, there are emotions that attach to all the jobs that we have with our people, but there's nothing more powerful than being in that classroom with young people and connecting with them each and every day. And I can't even describe it, but it's a feeling. You can't, unless you're talking about sympathy and empathy. I mean, it's a feeling. Unless you've been in that classroom, you really don't understand that gut feeling of what it's like to be that teacher.
And that's why I think in the book, besides encouraging other people to appreciate teachers, it's helping people do self-appreciation. Because if you need 3 to 1, if you're teaching fifth grade outside of teacher day or something like that, you're probably not going to have students writing you thank you notes on a regular basis. You're probably not going to have parents writing you a thank you note. And, principals get busy and they're likely to come in when something's wrong. I mean, if you get a text from the principal that says, call me, your first thought isn't, oh, good, here comes more reward and recognition. So we build a culture that focuses on communicating when something's wrong instead of something right. And so I think the neat part about the book is we really want teachers to get appreciated from other people.
Yes.
No doubt about it. That's the book.
Yeah.
Buy it for the teachers. Superintendent buying for a teacher you got. School board buy it for everybody you got. Parents buy it for your teachers. But we also have, I think, a lot of good feelings of, even when you don't get it directly, don't underestimate the difference you make in people's lives.
Absolutely. And, Quint, as you wrote the foreword in the book, you told the story of the 3 teachers that had an impact on your life. Can you talk a little bit about those stories and then
Sure.
what moved you into teaching?
Sure, exactly. Basically, I'm a hearing impaired person. Hearing impaired people have speech impediments. I also, when I was 2 years old, I was in a accident and my 2 front teeth were knocked out. So I had what you would call a lisp. And so really until kindergarten, very few people could understand me, but my immediate family, because they knew bulk meant milk. They could interpret my language. So I went to kindergarten and, it was different back then. There was no 94, 142 or any of these things or M teams or any of those things. So I really struggled in kindergarten. First grade, I really struggled. Even though they sent me to speech class, so I already felt different because my speech impediment. And I know that all good reasons to pull me out of class, but now you're even feeling more you don't fit in. So I had speech. And then I had a very difficult time reading. I still today have a very difficult time reading. So I have to have somebody tell me the word. I can't read it. They have to read it and tell me what it says. So in second grade, I have my second grade report card. And it says on the fourth quarter, it says very nicely, we think Quinn will benefit from repeating the second grade.
Mm.
So my mother must have, I know she lobbied because she got involved in the PTA. She became secretary
I
of the
see it too,
PTA.
Quint. I can see your mom doing
And basically they agreed to give me a trial in third grade for about 6 weeks. And I'm going to probably cry. And that's when I met Mrs. James. And I don't know anything about Mrs. James, her degrees, anything about her. She did 2 magical things for me. One, you felt loved.
Mhm.
Type of person you feel was hugging you when they're not hugging you. And number 2, she didn't do it the way maybe people do it. She knew I loved sports. So she'd bring in the Chicago Tribune paper every day, and quietly we'd sit there and go over sports scores. And that's how she taught me to read, because I was so passionate about sports. She taught me to read. Jerome Holtzman, a sports writer for the Chicago Tribune, Wendell Smith taught me how to read. She taught me how to read. And she also never put me in a spot of failure. So we were in a school play, and she gave me a speaking part. Now, you have a speech impediment, you're pretty nervous.
Mhm.
And I practiced and practiced, and I had to say, I'm as poor as ever. And when I said the word poor, I pronounced it purr. And she said, poor doesn't mean money for you, it means pouring milk. And so I was in this play. Normally, if you have a speech impediment, you're a tree or a rock or something. And I basically said, I'm as poor as ever.
Mm.
I still remember my mother was sitting the second row from the windows, the third seat. So that's Mrs. James.
Mm.
Fourth and fifth grade were pretty tough. Sixth grade, I ran into Mr. Fry. And again, I don't know what it was, but Mr. Fry knew I was going to need extra help. So when we did the seating assignment, somehow my desk got real close to his desk, because that way, instead of me, when I struggled, he would lean over and help me on the side without the other students knowing, because his desk was in the back of the room, not in the front of the room by the blackboard. And he just kept me busy. And if he noticed if I was distracted, he kept me doing stuff all the time. And if you're not doing well in school and there's parent teacher conferences, I always made sure I was sound asleep, pretending to be sound asleep when my mother came home from parent teacher conferences in fourth and fifth grade, because there was stuff like, I got my report cards, doesn't listen, distracts others, you know, gets his neighbors in trouble. The fourth and fifth grade wasn't good. Um, my mother came into my room so excited because she had such a good conversation with Mr. Fry, because he said, "I love having your boy in class." And he said, "He's got a lot of energy. We just got to keep it funneled in the right direction." And that was pretty cool. And I'm going to go off tack. One of my grandsons has a real bad speech impediment when he's little, and he couldn't make it in nursery school because kids would tease him
Oh, God.
and he'd get in fights. So he got put at Roosevelt School in Janesville, Wisconsin, and talk and learn. And he didn't even want to get out of the car when my daughter Becky would try to get him out of the car, because he hated the feeling of being in these rooms. And my daughter went to get him one day. And this is why not only are teachers vital, but all the staff around teachers are vital.
Mhm.
So the teacher assistant brought my grandson to my daughter and said, "I love having your son in class." And
Mm.
my daughter cried the entire way home.
Yeah.
So the third teacher is my high school coach. I went to the biggest high school in Illinois, Lyons Township High School, 5,300 kids, and I love sports. Well, you're 4'11" and about 98 pounds. You're not going to play football. I thought about cross country, but I ran around the block and was exhausted. So I went out for a new sport, 1965. The first time they started it, it was called soccer. And because it was brand new, they weren't going to cut anybody. And I had Coach King. And Coach King again. I think the key is how to correct people without tearing them down.
Yeah.
And Coach King, well, I tell this story, you'd run and miss the ball, and all he'd do is tell you how great you ran and how you hustled and way to get over there. Then he might say something like, "Hey, try to get your foot out. But good job getting over there." So I had Coach King for my freshman and sophomore year, and it kept me in school. I mean, because I wasn't a good student. And not that I would quit, but that's the only thing I enjoyed. Because in the off season, you do get ready for, you go to the gym and you lift weights and stuff like that. So my junior year, I went out for soccer, and Coach King is the freshman sophomore coach, and me and one other guy got cut immediately. I mean, because now they start cutting. So now I'm a junior in high school. I have a lousy grade point. I'm struggling in school, and now I don't have the one thing that I loved. So my senior year, soccer started about 2 weeks before school started. Lee Benesick called me, and he said, Coach King wonders why you're not out for soccer. And I said, "Well, Coach King's the freshman sophomore coach." He said, "No, he's the new varsity coach. He told me to get you out." I get crying. So I went out. I played me half the game. I knew when I was going to play, when I didn't play, the whole year. And then because I had two study halls, because I wasn't a good student, I got to go into his classroom and be a teacher assistant. And what I got to do is, after the bell rang, I took his boys to the library, sat with them. Before the bell rang, I took them back into the hallway, because he taught special ed. And back then, if the kids were in the hallway, they would get teased.
Mm.
So when I went to college, after 2 years of undecided, they asked me what I want to major in. And all I thought was Mrs. James, Mr. Fry, and Coach King. They said, "Well, what do you want to teach?" And I said, to explain what Coach King did, they said, "You want to be a special ed teacher." And that's how I became a special ed teacher. Sorry to go on so long.
No, it's, and just just as you're chronicling that story, Quint, just thinking about without those teachers, where you would be. I don't know. You probably think about that many times. Like,
Well, I no, there's more too. My counselor, Kent Taylor, I didn't have a good grade point, but I took the ACT and I did pretty well. And he called me in and said, "You can go to college." because I didn't think I was going to go to college. And he helped me get to Whitewater because Whitewater has a special program for people that have learning issues. It's
Mhm.
a university that focuses,
Does.
they have the second or first best wheelchair basketball team in the country. So he found a college that understood people that have a trouble learning because there's 14 letters that I can't hear because of my hearing impairment. So I have to figure things out. So, that's a counselor. There's all these people along the way. When
Yes.
I went to college, Helen Copas was the special ed um, administrative assistant. When I'd go in, she'd make you feel loved. I donated money, and there's a Helen Copas room at Whitewater, and she was a farmer. Her husband was a pig farmer in Jefferson, and she got up and said, "I never thought I'd have a room named after me." So it's everybody in education. The bus driver that gets that kid feeling great when they get on the bus and get home. It's all these people that touch people.
Yes. And what we had a chance to do in the book, we chronicled a few stories, told a few stories. There's so many to tell, but that's what we do in the book. We start with your forward, and then we begin to tell stories, the great stories of the impact that teachers have made on individual lives that have positioned them to be who they are today. And so, Quint, as we close today, as we think about why we wrote the book and what this book can really do to have the most positive impact as we reach out to those who have touched all of us. What can we do? What can we do to say, you are extraordinary teachers? Thank you.
I think sometimes people think people get recognition when they don't, or they assume they already know that. So if you're not a teacher, you probably assume that if you're a teacher, you're hearing all this positive stuff. So I would say don't assume, and that teachers are hearing all this. I also want the book to be one where they put it on their desk
Mhm.
and it's right there. And because sometimes when you're not having a good day, you need to turn to something to have a good day. And if you know, in the book, they can even write some things. They can tell their own stories. When I speak to large healthcare groups and I speak to physicians and healthcare people all over the country, I always ask them if any of them have ever had a teacher that had a huge impact on their life, and 100% of the hands go up.
Yeah.
So I want it to be on their desk so they can, so there's some self replenishment.
Mhm.
But I really, really want to make it where the community appreciates the teachers, where the community really says, if we need to be more appreciative, let's make sure we get them the book. Let's make sure we tell them the story. And principals need appreciation too, but for that principal to realize when you knock on that classroom door, you want the teacher to think, oh, great, I'm going to hear some good things. So we really want to create, I think, a culture of abundance and a culture of positivity.
Yeah. So good. And one thing that we say constantly, and you do as well, Quint, is there's something going on every day that's good. I mean, we
Yes.
see good every day. I mean, harvesting those good things and not keeping them inside of us, right? But really sharing the good.
Well, I remember again, when you teach and you have a student that's struggling, parents know this. And I'd always try to send a note home every single day of what the student did that was positive. And it could be, wow, they had a great 10 minutes. I don't know,
Yeah,
but it
but
was
sometimes
something
that's good.
positive because, people move to what's being rewarded and recognized. And I just know as a teacher, it was lonely, and I know you want to stop, but, I interviewed Dan Madden the other day on a radio program I was a host, and he's one of the greatest teachers ever. He taught math at James Parker High School, great baseball coach. And I'm in the classroom next to him. And all I wanted to do was make sure he couldn't hear my kids through the walls. But, but you're lonely because it's a
Yeah.
lonely profession, and you're scared. Those first couple of years are really, really hard
Mhm.
because you're isolated, and you don't want to go to, at least I didn't want to go to the teacher's lounge and say, I don't know what I'm doing. So I think the other great part about the book, Janet, it really encourages experienced teachers to share with new teachers what they felt like when they were new. Because
Mhm.
when you're new, you think you're going home thinking, I can't get Wayne, I can't deal with Deborah. What am I doing? I can't reach them. And I think if by getting an experienced teacher to say, hey, let me tell you when I was brand new, my first year, my second year. All of a sudden, you don't feel alone. Because that's the other thing. We want teachers to feel part of, not part from.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it was certainly a pleasure writing this book with you. It's a pleasure being able to interview teachers and hear their stories. Just the emotion that goes with all those stories is tremendous. So thank you for that opportunity to partner with you in this book, Quint. You've been a teacher and a mentor to me for
Yeah.
many years. So thank you for being that.
Well,
as well.
I'm excited to play a small part in Studer education too. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.